All right, guys. All right, listen to this. So we're gonna go into those deep dives now. This is what I strive for, is this kind of information, to bring this out into the public eye so that people can truly know the things that are hidden and the things that we're dealing with. So these principalities of darkness that are all around us have been subverting and using this power of Saturn. Saturn is an energy, it is an entity, it is a life force, because all energy has life. It has a life of its own, and it may not be in forms that we always comprehend, but nonetheless, it has a life. Even your car has a life. You gave it a soul, when you bought it and when it was manufactured. It has consciousness, because consciousness is in everything. Anyhow, let's get into some of this occult knowledge regarding Saturn. Now, I came across this little website when I was like, you know what? I'm just going to see what a death cult of Saturn might look like as a website. So I just typed in Saturn death cult, and of course, this is what popped up, SaturnDeathCult.com. And if you want to know more things about Saturn, you go down these trails. What are these people into? Satan is Saturn, guys. And if you're a Christian, you need to know these things, because it can get very, very confusing. They confuddled the languages, they confuddled the terms, the names, the words, everything. They wanted to really do a mass scramble of all the knowledge so that we wouldn't try to figure out what's going on during this time, because once they establish themselves, permanently as the rulers of this world, they will just truly make this planet fall, and there will be no life on the earth, which makes no sense, as to why you would want to kill off something completely if you're parasitic, even, because you kill your host. What else do you have to eat? It's really ridiculous. There's always going to be darkness, though. Always darkness and always light. You can never have more than one at any given moment. So let's just look at this website real quick, and then we'll go over some other Saturnian things that I've found. So this is the occult history of the Saturn death cult. And apparently this is a book that you can buy. And I think that's really lovely to put out there for, anyone who's interested in educating themselves on some of these practices that they're doing. And for myself, I'm not interested in the practice itself. I'm just interested in knowledge, because as you go down occult roads, it's what you do with the knowledge that determines whether it is good or evil, light or dark. And I believe just being illuminated by knowledge, whether it's light or dark, is a good thing, because then you can comprehend your enemy, because I do not wish to go down dark paths, for my own practice and things of that nature, because what you put out is what you get back. But these people have been practicing it where they avoid karmic backlash, because they've convinced you and I to attack each other. And they convinced us to take on these jobs and these roles in different positions in the workplace to actually manufacture and release poisons and destruction and harm on each other. And this is how the ones at the top actually avoid all of the karmic backlash, is because they've got their minions, far down the pyramid beneath themselves to enact all of the crimes against humanity. But it gets dictated and disseminated down from the top, and it trickles down. So this is where we've got to go, is to awaken to all of these hidden things and to look around you at any given time and know absolutely that we are under the influence of these beings. And with that, here we go. Mythology as a natural history and human history as a cult ritual. The Saturn death cult is an investigation into an ancient planetary upheavals that heralded the birth and destruction of a fabled golden age. And as I've shown in some of the astro-theology charts, there's one in particular that shows the golden age between the ages of Gemini, Taurus, and Aries. And they are the last three ages of our cycle of the 26,000 years before we have the fall of consciousness back down to the feet. And so during the age of Taurus was when they had the pinnacle point of the golden age. And I believe that it was during that age that the men were becoming very proud of their knowledge, as it states in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. And that at that point they began summoning these principalities of darkness, because as we know, it seems to be that all of this human sacrifice stuff goes back to the age of the bull, which is Taurus, and Taurus is also known as Baal. So that is when they started sacrificing people to this entity. And they were summoning Saturn, basically, because you summon Saturn by spilling the blood and citing specific rites. And that's basically what it means. They have statues of Baal, and I'll see if I can get that real quick. And it shows the bull that's receiving the child. But let me see if I can get this. This is, of course, they're starting to whitewash the internet, so you can't find anything. It's not Baal. It's a bull-headed god, and it's like this. And you hear about the Etruscans and the Minoans and all of this, and they had these bulls, and that's why there's a bull, over at Wall Street, and there's even one downtown Atlanta that is representative of this. It's because they've been doing this since the age of Taurus. And once we have the eyes to see in the knowledge, we can start really tracing their history on what they did. Okay, so here's the image that I've been looking for. And it's not always colored this way, but they have this bull that represents Baal. It can also, not just the spelling of B-A'-Al, but it is also like you play ball, B-A-L-L. That's also a nod in this figure's direction. And anything with ball, like terms like balance, like I'm sure there's plenty of different things. I can't think of them right offhand, but the etymology of words have a lot of meaning and roots that come into things, they come from things like this. And so the Baal worship was during the age of Taurus, and that's why it's a bull. So it's not necessarily that this thing was evil, but what they're saying is that the sun at that time was in Taurus. The sun was there in Taurus, and that the Taurus constellation was in the east on the spring equinox of the year. And that they started giving these sacrifices, their children, to Baal, so that they could gain more power, more control. They wanted more of everything. They wanted more wealth. And this is explained in the Emerald Tablets about how man fell in his consciousness from his high estate. And they started doing all of these things because they were really proud of their knowledge. And so they started summoning these things from the darkness that are down below us. And that would be the demons, to come and give them power, because you can absolutely do this in some of the different practices that you do with black magic. But again, know that magic is only a tool that each of us has capability of using, and it is our minds. It's our scalar waveforms that are formed of our thoughts, and it also comes from the frequencies of sound that we make with our mouths during the rituals and speaking the rites and chanting and things of this nature. Sound frequencies have a certain vibration, and when they absolutely vibrate in specific patterns, they can be used to either harm or help people. And again, we've got to think about all these terms. Like I'm constantly thinking about these terms that we use, like help and harm. I mean, you've got the harmony, has the term harm in it. It's really ridiculous. And then help has hell, HEL, which is where Hela is. This is just what I'm talking about. This is all part of this Saturnian black magic that is out here in the world. And those frequencies are absolutely creating without our knowledge and awareness, because we've been left in the dark for so long, and it's time to bring the knowledge back. And so that's why we're talking about this today, is to try to understand, or actually comprehend, because we don't want to understand Saturn, but we want to comprehend Saturn and what Saturn truly means and what Satan truly means, because they're all one unit. Now, so that's Baal. And let's get back over here to this Saturn death cult thing. Okay, so it was after the destruction of a fabled golden age, which was during the age of Aries, was actually when they started descending even more. It started just growing rampant. And then when it hit Pisces, it had fully collapsed. The civilization had fully collapsed. But this is what happens when you go around the wheel of time. And I'll go over here and find this. I'll find this, the Astro-theology wheel. Okay, so this is the Astro-theology chart, the one that I like to refer to most often, because it has so many different features to look at. And so what I've been talking about is this gold spring. This is the golden age. And it started in the age of Gemini, and then it hit its final peak over here in Taurus, about the third quarter or quadrant of, not quadrant, but just a third of Taurus. So it was after about 1,500 years or so of being into Taurus, it hit the pinnacle point. And then it started fading out again, because this is what happens throughout the wheel of time. And so as it began to fall away, this is the point when the consciousness started descending back into the winter of Pisces. And Pisces, we were looking for the path. So we were back down to the 2 feet, which is the 2 fish of Pisces. This is the 2 fish over here in this little symbol, and they are opposing. So these are like opposing forces, but they are still connected. And this is also the Hilton Hotel's symbol. They put things in our face, but we don't always comprehend them. That's why it's important to know the logos. The logos is also considered the spoken word in some of the spiritual teachings. So, all of these concepts belong in one unit. And I can see the future where all of this, science, spirituality, sound, frequencies, all these things merge back into one, because that's where everything in existence belongs in one unit, and we are all one. And until we grasp this concept, we're just going to be floundering around, thinking that we're all alone, when we're truly not, if we just put away our differences and start working together. So into the age of Pisces we went, and we have been around this wheel, the recycle trap, which is the Ouroboros. It is a recycled construct. It is by design that this is made, because we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. This is what we hear in every spiritual book, that we will reincarnate around the wheel of time continually, learning and growing as a soul. And we grow upwards in soul force. This came out of Dolores Cannon's work. This also came out of other hypnotherapists' work, is that all these common denominators, when they put people in hypnosis and they can get them in the life between lives, and to have these experiences and to view these things from a different perspective that is inward instead of outward, then there's more information to be had. And so we go into all of these different ages and experiencing different energies, different frequencies, which is represented over here by these geometric patterns. These are sine waves and sound waves, and each age holds a specific frequency. And once we go around, and you can see this one's really like rattling. This one's really disharmonic. But once we go around this great wheel, these patterns will start to simplify, and then eventually emerging into one unified field. That will be one unified field of awareness that is a scalar wave form in its shape, because a triangle represents a 3D version, like a pyramid. And that it doesn't matter if it's actually physically 3D or if it's 2D. In radionics, these things will emit a field of energy that will basically take on the 3D form. So you can go out here and draw a triangle and stick it on something, and it is actually affecting all of the objects around it. This is what radionics teaches us. And that it's just a part of science that belongs back in the spiritual, like everything else does. But because it's still compartmentalized, we have to break all these components down and take the fractions and bring them back in together. The pyramid triangle shape is also part of the tetragrammaton, which incorporates all of these different geometric patterns in its matrix. The tetragrammaton is actually the interconnectedness of all things. And since it's pyramid shapes, it is affected by our thoughts, which are also scalar waves, which also take on this sort of shape. So it's a lot of information, and just being able to see this with a larger perspective gains us the knowledge to go out into the world and see it with new eyes, and to put aside all of the concerns about what's actually happening, because everything as we know it is an illusion. The dream state is what we're experiencing right now, and the real world is the one where our consciousness flies away every night and freely flows through a river of other consciousnesses. Through our dreams is the real world. But we do not comprehend this because we came to have an experience. That's why, they put these things in Hollywood, like in Stranger Things, they put the upside down. They know that there's an alternate reality that we are not aware of because we haven't been in our spiritual state. Most people think they're spiritual just because they go to a church or kirk, but that's not the absolute truth of it all. You have to go inwards in order to truly know yourself, to find your spirit, reconnect with your spirit, and know yourself fully. And that is the path that I am on. And I encourage other people to find themselves and to just drop the walls that you've put up, throw away the mask and just walk forward with who you are, because you are a spirit having a physical experience, and we all came here to learn. This is one big school, and we're all teaching each other. But, it's hard to teach when people are wanting to attack you and accuse you and point fingers, and they don't even know you. They've never been in your life. They've never been around you to personally know you through and through. And all of this just needs to stop. We need to stop making assumptions of people, even these political leaders. We don't know the truth of everything. We don't, but we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to just share information to guide each other upwards towards the light, which is what I am trying to do. I want to guide people back to themselves so that they can know themselves fully, and to take some of this information and to just gain more knowledge from it. This is just a seed I'm a gardener, and so are many of you. We're all gardeners of information. We're sharing the seeds of knowledge, and we're just spreading this so that other people can grow their gardens, and they can just take the knowledge and do with it as they wish. But I feel like the greater good is what we all strive for. There are some people that do not, but that is not our business. That's their path if they want to go to darkness. But we have to mind our own thoughts and our own ideas, because thoughts create things. And this is the absolute truth of the universe. There are universal laws at play at all times. And most of the time, we do not know about them. I've been learning them because I've had some hard lessons. And what you put out is what you get back. So be mindful of where your thoughts go. What do you do? Do you do things to help people, or do you do things to hinder people or attack people or assault people? Let's be more mindful. That's what this whole epoch and era is about. That's why it's the era of my ways. I have been waiting in this winter, not knowing myself fully, not wanting to even participate in this existence, because I did not feel like it was my world. But now that we're on the cusp and we're leaving this winter, we're going to still experience some of it, but we're getting more into the era of my ways. And the era of my ways is accepting everyone, but just also being very, very curious about the world, like a childlike mind, to bring about the changes that we need to see. And that is our job. Our task is to help each other. And this comes out in all my hypnosis sessions. They're always just telling us, the higher selves, higher beings are always saying, you came here to help. Find the way. How is it you want to help someone else? And so this is part of my path, is to help others to see. Since I am Aquarius, I think about these things all the time, and my subconscious works on this stuff while I sleep. And I just can't help it. It's just who I am. So with that, we're just going up into Aquarius. And Aquarius has the waveforms. They're sine waves over here. It's a water bearer, but the strange thing about this is that it has nothing to do with water, really. The sign of Aquarius is about air and frequencies, obviously, because we're learning about frequencies again. We forgot about them during this age where we fell. But now that we're coming back in, we can't get too far behind, because if we get too far behind, then we won't be able to catch up to what these symbols are. These symbols are an absolute power over us as well. Symbols are sigils, and they create. So the masters of yesteryear, so long ago, designed this chart as a calendar and a clock to know ourselves fully, and to know that the time that we go into will absolutely tell us, like, there will be some major changes between the ages, and we will always know this. And then we progress further and we learn things. So there's other symbols and signs in here as well. Just like what we've experienced during the age of Pisces is a lot of male energy. This has been a paternal type of energy. It's patrimony, with the Pope and the papacy and all of this. But that's because of what the yin and yang has to say here too. So the yin and yang are absolutely a part of each one of us all the time, constantly speaking to us, but we do not know how to read the signs. Once you go and obtain some of the information about yin and yang, you can start to walk the path of balancing your life, recognizing problem areas and balancing it off with its complete opposite. So the yin and yang are represented here with the white half and the black half. The white half represents the male energy, and the black half is the female energy. And this male energy has been dominant ever since the age of Gemini. See how Gemini is over here? And then as we go into Taurus, it's pretty much, full on. There's a lot of male energy that's dominating. But then as we get over here into Aries, it starts to kind of go away a little, but it's still dominated mostly by that. And then all the way over here to Pisces, we have the male energy that's starting to fade. And it's going to give way because what we've been seeing during this time is a lot of the female divine energy coming back into play. It got way out of balance. This is what we saw, in the Muslim countries, is a lot of male dominating energy. And so they live in desert plains over there because the Mother Earth, is completely just out of balance. And once she's allowed to come back, and the women are allowed to come back, into a role of healing energy, that whole desert will shift and change, and it'll become a more vibrant jungle again. It'll be lush with life again. But as these times come about, these changes happen. So as we're going into a little bit more of the feminine energy, we're going to see the earth restore herself, because as we get out of balance, the earth also gets out of balance. Our earth mother becomes imbalanced and things die off. And that's what we're seeing with the trees. That's what we're seeing with the deserts and everything else. So that divine feminine energy is going to come in, and it's going to be very, very strong. And once it gets back over here to Scorpio and Libra, it's going to be full blown. Like Mother Earth is going to make a huge comeback once we start hitting some of these other astrological ages. And then as you can see directly across from Pisces, if you go straight across, is the age of Virgo. And it will be a feminine dominated energy. But as all things, that one will start to fade as you go into Leo. And it'll go back into the male dominated energy. But look more into some of these things, because this yin and yang can absolutely help you balance out your life. It can balance out your foods. Once you learn about the hot and cold and dry and wet aspects of it, then you can start to utilize that knowledge in absolutely every aspect of your life. And it's about, whether you've spent too much time lounging around, or you spent too much of your energy doing things constantly, it can throw you out of balance. And once you see this and recognize this and these patterns in your own life, the yin and yang, just returning to this base form, will give you the knowledge to balance out your health, balance out your life, your emotions, everything. And there's also like this red shift, blue shift thing here. I haven't really delved much into that. I know that it's about the sine waves and, the goings and comings of sine waves and things of sound and et cetera, but I don't really get into that. But let's go back to Saturn now that we've kind of covered some ground on what this is and why, they've been summoning Saturn. So Saturn is also represented over here. It looks like, and it's upside down in this image, but if you read it upright where the Aquarius, you can read Aquarius, it looks like an H with a little cross at the top. And, as far as the symbol goes, I haven't been able to sort of download what this is, like the reference, how it is defined in its pictograph form. But things like this are easy to decipher, like the sine waves, and some of the other things are as well. But Saturn is going to dominate Aquarius on some level. And so we're going to still be experiencing some of the Saturnian influence for a while, until we get into about just past probably half of the age of Aquarius. And then we're going to start getting back into the Iron Age, and we're going to be using computers and stuff even more. I mean, we're going to have robots all around us. And then I think we'll probably go back into a more natural world once we start going around the clock a bit. Anyhow, let's move on. So let's get back to the Saturn Death Cult book. Now, I don't have this particular book, but I do have a Cult of the Black Cube book. And so I believe that this is going to explain a lot, because it seems like they know about the Golden Age a little bit, but they say it's fabled. It's not a fable, it's an actuality. And all you have to do is pull up an astro-theology chart and just look at the images, and you can see what they have to say, because it's an absolute science. It is not, riff-raff and flim-flam. It's an absolute science that has been here for thousands of years, and we just have never been privy to it because we were never taught this information. Okay, so, and it says, it's exactly what it says. It says the destruction of the Golden Age, following which mankind then degenerated into the obsessive pursuit of wealth and power through the perverted horrors of slavery, child sacrifice, and mass murder rituals. And that is exactly what that is. During that age, with Baal worship. Now, Baal is basically just the sun. Each age has its own thing. The ram of Aries is representative of Baphomet. The ram is the goat, it's like a goat head. It could also be Capricorn, but it's more like this age of Aries idea and concept. And it's a dividing fountain of knowledge, is what I see in the symbol. So let me just give you my interpretation of what I see just by looking on these symbols and seeing what they represent. Because in Gemini, if this is the start of the Golden Age, you see a perfectly balanced symbol. These lines are parallel to each other, which means it's in perfect stasis. And then you get into Taurus, and you have the circle of protection, the circle of life. It is also representative of a symbol of completion, wholeness. And if you had put a dot in the middle of a circle, it represents the sun. But this symbol also has these little spikes coming off of it. So it's almost like it's saying that the perfect balance is now starting to separate. That's what I see, because it's just after this pinnacle point of the Golden Spring, it's like that's when the separation began. So then when you get into Aries, what this represents to me in this symbol, it's not just the ram. The ram, I think, is just a figurative term, but it represents to me a fountain of knowledge that is now dividing into two halves. It is splitting into two. And the two factions are the good and evil, like the darkness and light in people. It's going and it's separating. And then you have Pisces, where there are two opposing forces, but they are still linked by this divine force of everything, because yin and yang are absolute. And wherever you have darkness, you're going to have light. It's just the way this world is, and we have to comprehend this, that all of these things are by design. Yeah, and so, then it gets over into the sine waves, which we're learning about frequencies again, and it just keeps going around the clock. But, to help people comprehend this whole Saturnian energy, we just need to examine this further. So this particular website, it says it has part 1 and 2 from the Saturn Death Cult book. You guys should probably go get this if you're interested in learning more. But this discusses the disturbing occult origins of the planet Saturn and its influence on our march towards the terrifying elitist agenda of justifiable man-made global cleansing. And that's what they're doing. But they're getting us to do it to ourselves. Through these jobs, they've been compartmentalizing everything. And they've been tricking us and getting us to attack each other. The policy pushers, which are the police, it says policy on the side of their vehicle. It does not say police. They are an arm of the Vatican, and they are Freemasons because they are part of the Fraternal Order of Police. They were put into place to do more division and to do more dirty work on behalf of the Vatican. They are getting you to sign contracts, and those are Vatican contracts that you sign whenever you sign your name to a document. And this is not legal advice, but this is something for other people to go investigate, that this is also part of the cult of Saturn. All of this stuff that they do, the black and white. Why is it black and white? Well, black equals death and white equals life, but it also, black also equals ignorance and white equals knowledge. So we've just got to start looking at all the symbolism and learning what we can. And I am not the foremost authority on anything. So never take me as, oh, I think I know it all. That's not me. That is not me. I am just trying to express things that I've come across. I don't have someone that's here, teaching me these things. I have to go and try to teach myself, which is why I do what I do. And, I am always listening to other people too, to see what they have to say. And as long as it's given in a very amicable manner, then, I think that's a good thing. Okay, so find out why today's frightening sex murder cults and secret societies are a twisted yet deadly legacy of a time when people yearned for the rebirth of the planet Saturn as our original sun and source of light and life. Discover the electric universe, the groundbreaking, easy to understand science of plasma cosmology with an uncanny ability to provide natural explanations for what the ancients really saw happening in the skies above them. The same ancient records that today's mainstream academics brush off as fantastical myths and certain Luciferian type sects, such as the so-called Illuminati, claim as spiritual illuminated truth. One thing to know about this term Luciferian: Lucifer was Venus. Now, is there an entity called Lucifer? I do not know. But Lucifer was the light of the morning. And that light of the morning was the star that we know of as Venus. It's the planet Venus, and it was always seen before the dawn in the morning towards the east. So it was always called the light of the morning. Okay, understand the real forces behind the legends of Atlantis and Lemuria and our continuing fascination and fear of a coming doomsday. Well, all it is, they want to enact more fear on us by telling us all kinds of crazy things. Every 10 years, they give us something else to fear. Know how planetary cataclysms caused the ancients to divide mankind's history into a golden age, silver age, bronze age, and the modern and violently destructive iron age. I believe we're in that winter because the iron age is coming. That's why we have cars and all this metal stuff. And we're about to get into robots, so it's about to get real. Also, if you have ever wondered why the infamous call for a New World Order is linked by conspiracy advocates to elitist financial chronism, missing children and pedophilic networks, death cults, serial killers, and police state terrorism, then hopefully this website may connect a few dots. Guns, oil, drugs, sex. Learn how the parasitic gods industry has its origins in the financial corruption of the ancient mystery schools and priesthoods that had been originally established during man's silver age to preserve the knowledge of Saturn's life and death as our first and best sun. Discover the connection between the collapse of today's international financial system and its origins in the legend of the Tower of Babel. Then understand why certain religious teachings say it is the love of money, not the love of the devil, that is the root of all evil. connecting secret Nazi technology and the modern UFO phenomenon to the possibility of a breakaway civilization looking to colonize space at the expense of the rest of us. See how the alchemical movies of Stanley Kubrick point to a hidden modern Saturnian elite with a very dark agenda for mankind's useless eaters, and how CIA mind control programs like MK Ultra have played a significant role in the rise of the serial killer phenomenon. This is all the stuff that I've always, I've looked at a lot of this stuff, and absolutely these things are real, and we need to just don the eyes and the courage to look at these things, even if they are the ugly, ugly underbelly of the truth that's all around us. So once finished, you may ask the question, are we being steered into a new occult-inspired golden age, or are we on the precipice of a police state dark age? On this website, I will endeavor to steer you towards some of the more open-minded thinkers and writers investigating the sometimes horrifying origins of the more profound social problems facing our species today. As the above hints at, some of the subject matter discussed deals with the distasteful issue of pedophile networks and their links to human sacrifice rituals. For those of a more delicate disposition, that can be highly disturbing and distressing topic, and you are therefore warned. Ritual crime is never pretty. I do, however, believe it is vital for us to understand how Saturnian mythology and cosmology has been warped by certain individuals and sects into a justification for such heinous crimes against women and children. What I have dubbed as the Saturn death cult, and some of them call it the Saturn matrix, can be loosely defined as the accumulated financial and ritualistic operations and beliefs of certain occult sects and organizations involved today in the promotion of war for profit, monopoly of energy sources, illicit drug trafficking, and the sexual exploitation of women and children, and the infamous gods industry. Discussing the extremely serious topic of the historical sexual exploitation of women and children will hopefully arm us with better knowledge in our collective opposition to this gods industry. This is exactly what they've been promoting as religion. They religioned the minds of people, and they deemed it gods. But we need to comprehend which God are we truly worshiping when we go into these religions, because a lot of the things that are said are highly questionable. The things that you read in some of the context of those books is very questionable, but nobody questions. All right, I'm just going to leave that there. Now, I'm just going to read another little thing here so that we can learn some things about Saturn. Now, Saturn, for example, is the planet whose source holds great strength and has the knowledge of mysteries. It has a mysterious orbit and the power to obtain the reason behind things and the ability to find their intentions. The spell of wonders and knowledge of secret and mysterious issues. It also rules the Hebrew and Coptic languages, and for external body parts, it rules the right ear. The outside parts and the spleen as an internal organ, which are also considered the source of the black. The mixture of the body and the joints, that which holds those whole parts together. The fabrics are all kinds of rough fabrics. Its professions are leather, tanning, farming, building, mining, and it rules the repulsive tastes like wild pear. As for locations, it rules black mountains and valleys and basements, wells, graveyards, and the wilderness. Its jewels, onyx, black stones, and lodestone. Its metals are lead, iron, and everything else that has turned black, putrefied, and stinky smelling. Its plants, oak, safflower, carob, palm tree, caraway, boxthorn, cumin, onion, and all hard-leaved plants and thorny, harmful trees. Its drugs, aloe, myrrh, their equivalent, wild castor oil plant, and wild colocynth. Its scent is wisteria and licorice. Its animals, every dark, black, and ugly animal like black camels, sheep, pigs, wolves, monkeys, dogs, cats, and all birds with long neck and gruff voice like ostriches, buzzards, owls, vermin, crows, bats, cranes, and all stinky, dirty animals living underground. Its colors are black, dark colors, and gray. Saturn's power is cold, hard, and its core is made of misfortune, corruption, stinky, vicious, betrayal, and it is scary. Saturn also, if he gets hold of any matter it betrays, separates, and scares. It has the pursuance of gardens, rivers, plowing, farming, provides with a lot of money, cheapness, poverty, disputes, traveling to far bad places. It also has the signs of depression, grudge, cunning, circumcision, refuge, no socialization, and every other matter which has to do with evil, forcefulness, jail, change, fatigue, hard work, weakness, corruption, truthful words, friendliness, determination, and old age, advocacy, building, depressions, fear, too much thinking, worries, experiences, anger, insistent, doing less, goodness, concern, sadness, difficulties, grimness, death, cheating, inheritance, accusations, old things, brooding, too much talking, the knowledge of secrets, the mysterious side of things. And if Saturn is retrograde, it holds the signs of disgrace and weakness. It also has the signs of binding insistence, which is restraint on certain matters. And if Saturn has its retrograde, happens to face another planet, it weakens that planet too. Saturn is used to ask for needs that you desire from chieftains, nobles, presidents, kings, old people, dead people, criminals, recipients, the people benefiting of inheritance, heroes, deputies, peasants, builders, slaves, thieves, parents, grandparents, prominent people, and if you are sad or sick with a deadly disease and every other similar request of the same nature, ask for it from Saturn with the help of a drawing. So that's just a little bit about Saturn. And Saturn is also considered Father Time or Kronos. He is a challenger. He is also an entity that will favor you in certain situations. If you have Saturn in your birth chart, he's either going to favor you or he's going to challenge you. There's a lot of symbolism that revolves around this entity that we know of as Saturn. It's basically an energy that you can summon. And there's different rituals that you can do to summon Saturn. And that's what these people have been doing, is summoning the energies of Saturn. And that Saturnian energy is obviously tied to those things that are hidden and dark, that are below us, beneath us, in the ground. And I am still trying to comprehend how all of this works. But this is a good start with the insight of Saturn, knowing what Saturn is, what it represents. He's also, since he's Father Time, he's also the Sandman. And in that recent series on Netflix called The Sandman, the very first episode, a black magician or magician is summoning death. He said that he wants to summon death and capture death. And so he did. And it ended up being the Sandman. So this character called the Sandman is always wearing black. He is the purveyor of dreams when you're in your sleep state. So what is it exactly? This energy, this thing is obviously a consciousness. And since it can be this entity and have all these energies, how does it affect us? Well, I believe it has an effect, even according to what Dante has to say about the cosmology of our world and how Saturn's influence, which is up here, is just one of the aspects of the planets that we know of. So apparently the moon is one of the most influential, as it's, one of the inner spheres. Then Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Why do they leave out all of the other planets in these kinds of things? This is not the only model there is. This is Ptolemy's model of the cosmology of our world. And of course, I don't really read a lot of this, but this is the moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, and Jupiter and Saturn. Notice the J for Jupiter is just an I. They used to have just I instead of a J. The J never existed. But here's the firmament all around, has the stars all around. These are spheres of influence. And there's a new series that's on Amazon Prime that is based on Lord of the Rings, and it's the rings of power. And this is what they're referring to. These rings, these concentric rings with one in the other, are the rings of power. And they say that Saturn ate his children. Well, these, they say, are Saturn's children because they're inside Saturn's ring of influence. And supposedly Jupiter is Zeus. And, you know, I really haven't gotten into how these things influence our lives. I'm just learning some of the things of the zodiac, and it's really clicking into place, just more pieces of a puzzle that's multidimensional. There's a lot of information out here. So we can just learn what we can, you know, about Saturn and the influence of Saturn and why they summon Saturn. It's all power. It's all principalities of power, but they're losing their power is slipping from their grasp, and they've had it for so long that they don't know what to do, and they're scrambling right now. So that's good news for us. We're seeing the end of an age and the beginning of a new, because where one thing ends, there's always something new that begins. And that's it. That's all we're going to witness. It's that easy. And what we can do is just focus on loving each other more, caring for each other more, because all of us are needed to clean up the mess that's been made from all the chaos. And with that, I bid you guys a good evening, and I hope you liked this little education that we just took together. I know I appreciate it. So I'll see you guys soon.